I would like to discuss about astrological constitutional body and what that is. So, constitutional body is your authentic code, your authentic blueprint. And we all are made of energy. Energy can't be created nor destroyed. Energy is transmutation, energy is transformation, but we all have an authentic code. In that authentic code, we are in the oversoul, right, that we call the Astrological record, right? And the oversoul, known as the Astrological record, basically is the great space holder for that authentic code. Now, when we come to, let's say, planet Earth, right, to become human, we integrate our authentic code from the oversoul. So a lot of times when we meditate, we focus on the third eye, right? And the third eye basically is a tunnel that connects into the deeper brain and then out through the top of the head. That is also the soft spot of a baby's head, right? The top of the head. And it beams up, right, out of the top of the head, out through the crown chakra into the 10th gate. And the 10th gate is seen as a white sun, right? It's seen as a white sun. And that white sun is represented as this deathless life force, this pure deathless life force. And it's also known as the Holy Spirit, right? It's the Holy Spirit. So a lot of times this 10th gate can be seen in portraits of saints as this disc that's around their head. Kind of looks like a halo, but it's bigger. It almost looks like there's an entire aura around this saint's head, right? It just looks like this pure, sometimes it's a white disc, sometimes it looks like it's a blue disc. And that just simply represents the 10th gate. And the 10th gate is open to all of us. It's just, in order to receive this deathless life force through the physical body, we do have to work with the pineal gland, and we do have to work with the crown chakra. We do have to work with the arc line, because the 10th gate is very much connected to the arc line, which is, again, like this great disc or this great arcing energy, this holy energy from ear to ear. And not everybody has a developed arc line. Not everybody has a developed pineal gland, right? Just like everybody is not as intuitive or psychic as other people, because that psychic energy is developed through incarnations. And that information, right? Every body we have, it's information basically. And that information, when we die, it doesn't just destroy. It doesn't just poof, go something like just die with the physical body. It goes with us, right? When we die, everything that we've experienced and learned and everything that we developed within this physical body, either in the aura, in the mind, in the spirit, all of that becomes information. All that information, when we die and we take our last breath, right? Our pranic body joins the soul body joins the subtle body, and then we leave through the top of the head, through the 10th gate, into basically the universe, right? That becomes information. And it's stored within the oversoul, which is known as the Astrological record, right? So all the past lives we've had are stored. It's not dead energy, right? It's not dead energy. It's stored, right? It's recycled energy that can be reused as we reuse past life memories to help us in this lifetime, right? Past lives and all the experiences are basically they're recycled. Even past life traumas, right? It's information, and that information it comes into the physical body, and it basically it's sent into the physical body, and the trauma therefore is held within the physical body of a past life. And the reason why this information basically comes with us from life to life, It gives us knowledge, right? It also gives us our life lessons and what we came here to learn. It also gives us what we're trying to work on, like trauma, for example, past lives, right? We're meant to experience our infinity, our totality, and if there's anything like we call blockages from past life traumas that create a lot of fear, we must resolve them, right? The whole journey of becoming a human being, right, is to become our authentic code, right, is to break through all restrictions, limitations, fears, traumas that are a part of the human condition, right, to break through all of them using the power of the soul and the soul mantra, basically to come into our authentic code and express our authenticity through our artistry. It's kind of like the great destiny that we're all in different phases of. We call that the last incarnation on earth, is when you have, through many lifetimes, right, like 8.4 million lifetimes, in just, that's kind of like just a starting place, where you become your authentic self, right? Because coming into this earth experience in the human condition, it's not really set up for human beings to be their authentic self, right? If we were like, let's say I came in as a Pleiadian on Pleiades, the whole the setup of Pleiades is probably more supportive of me becoming my authentic self, right? If I came into Earth in a different vibrational resonance, such as like a fifth dimensional resonance, like let's say in the ancient past of matriarchal Egypt or Lumeria Atlantis, that's probably more set up for me to become my authentic self. Right? And your authentic self is just simply your most liberated, ceremonious self, right? So the authentic code, it's information that isn't just of Earth. Like, it's also information of, like, if we were on Pleiades, right? And that's why many of us, we have these creative gifts or these intuitive abilities that are not very familiar to Earth, or they are familiar but not necessarily originated from Earth. So a lot of us come to Earth and we have these gifts or talents or just expressions, or even some of us have these sort of genetic features that are not originated from Earth. It's not common. It's very foreign to Earth. So those foreign qualities about us represent where we are integrating information from other planets and other dimensions. Like for myself, I have this strong information on matriarchal Egypt, and that's nowhere to be found in any history textbook. You'll never find that, right? That doesn't exist. It's like, no, that doesn't exist, right? In this current setup that we have on Earth. That is me basically integrating information from previous incarnations on planet Earth, right? That seem foreign to this particular dome that we're in, right? Or the barriers that we're in, right? So you can integrate from your Sattvic record, and there's so much information, and that's why people who do have a developed third eye or have an opened crown chakra or have sort of a direct access to the 10th gate, a lot of them are very much channelers, right? A lot of them are channelers. They're very gifted in being psychic and mediumship, and they're visionary, right? When your 10th gate is open and the pineal gland into the deeper brain through the top spot of the head, you basically become visionary, right? Where you can connect with information in this quantum field, right? That basically gives you access to all these kinds of places around, not just in our solar system, but also in our galaxy. So there are individuals who, before we were even aware of let's say the planet Pluto or the planet Jupiter, there were individuals who already could see it before it was even documented or even recognized in the scientific community. There are individuals who would meditate or would have these sort of transcendental experiences and would see the planet Jupiter and the planet Pluto before there was even a telescope to actually see it. So that's kind of the individuals who are going through the 10th gate to connect with this quantum field, as well as this their consciousness, right? The consciousness is the Akashic record. It is the oversoul. That's our consciousness. And we integrate that in the memories and the information from multiple lifetimes so we can experience infinity, so we can come into a totality, which basically we want to be whole, right? We want to be united with all our lifetimes, either on planet Earth or other lifetimes, right? We don't want to be confined to this lifetime where we are limited and restricted in the amount of creativity we can express and we can share and we can develop in this lifetime. We don't want to be bound to the restraints of this particular setup that we all have, right? We want to evolve beyond that in our spirituality. We want to evolve beyond the human condition, right? We want to evolve into a liberated state where we can start to be very prolific and lucrative and prosperous for our artistry. That is basically, we share these foreign information, right? This foreign information for the purpose of nourishing ourselves, but also nourishing our community, and also bringing about great visionary art or science to this planet Earth, which is kind of the higher destiny, or like the last incarnation for a lot of people, such as like Nikola Tesla and even Yogi Bhajan and Da Vinci and so many others. Those are just individuals that are part of, we know, in this patriarchal setup. But there are individuals even before that, right? When we talk about before the patriarchal setup. In the matriarchal setup, we had, these visionaries that were seen as like, Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene lineage, right, or Shakti lineage and the Radha lineage, and again, there were visionary women who were visionary in their art or visionary in science. That was considered their last incarnation before they left through the 10th gate, and they returned to their planet that they originate from, right? Because a lot of us, we don't originate from Earth. Some of us are very old to Earth, but a lot of us don't originate from Earth. Because even the DNA, they've shown that the DNA of human beings is actually older than the planet itself. So our DNA is actually older than the Earth. So it means that our DNA as human beings, it originates from another place, right? Because if our DNA is older than planet Earth, it's showing that our DNA began somewhere else and then it was brought here. And I believe that our DNA was probably originated from Mars, millions, maybe billion of years ago, and then it was brought into the Earth, and when the Earth was at a stable sort of place for human life, right? So, and also, we know that our DNA also, when we unlock it, which we are starting to unlock it through clearing away the epigenetic traumas that are causing a lot of sort of dysfunctions in the DNA, like mutating the DNA into, fear does mutate the DNA into a lesser intelligence, right? Into a lesser intelligence, right? So we have a lot of this fear, so a lot of our DNA has been mutated in a certain way, where it's basically more primitive than it is expanding into its more, you can say, noble sort of DNA patterning, because all the fear and the trauma and all the human condition stuff, the judgment, basically, the judgment has, through generations, centuries of judgment, has really caused our DNA to really is really deleted a lot of DNA patterns that are very much about genius patterns in the DNA. Right, it basically has deleted a lot of these DNA patterns. When there's heavy judgment, has basically blocked off a lot of imagination and creativity and self-expression. All of that is basically a platform for these genius ideas to stick to it. Right, genius needs to stick to something, and it usually sticks to a high imagination, high creativity. But if there is none, because the trauma and the fear and the judgment has basically deleted it, or kind of erase those patterns, right? There's nothing for genius to stick to. And that's what's happening on this planet right now, is that we are considered another renaissance. The Aquarian age is considered it's a renaissance, basically. It's a period of renaissance. That's why we have advancements in technology where people can start to tap into their artistry again and get out of the human condition of trauma and enslavement and all these kinds of things. So we're rebuilding these patterns in the DNA of prosperous living, of genius, of all these kinds of traits. We're bringing them back into our DNA patterning, and therefore, as we continue through many generations, we'll actually see what we call human sapien 2.0, which is Homo sapien 2.0, which is basically the evolution of the DNA patterning. Because the human Homo sapien right now that we are, it has a particular DNA pattern that is more connected to our primitive side. And that's why in our textbooks there's a picture of like some cave-like man, and then there's a picture of like us humans, and then there's a couple, sort of phases in between. Because we know that our DNA we compare it to like, basically apes. Right, and the evolution of the human species, right? Because that really showcases that, we do have a DNA patterning that is not in the full potential of the human design. Because the human design is not meant to be compared to like an ape. That the ape has its own sort of its own design, and we're not meant to be compared. We're actually meant to be compared to, even with shamans in the indigenous tribes around this planet, they compare human to like a star being, right? Like a Pleiadian or just a general star being that you'll see a lot on cave drawings of belonging to an indigenous tribe that is supposedly there for thousands of years in that particular region, right? It's basically humans are meant to be compared to. They're meant to be compared to star beings, not apes, and like these cavemen who have like these ape-like qualities. That represents that we are still very much on our primitive DNA patterning, which everything has a primitive DNA patterning, but us as in our human design. And we see that even in the rise and fall of human consciousness when it comes to, Lemurian Atlantis and the fall of that. And then, humans kind of getting into this period of like collapse and like breakdown and catastrophe and all these kinds of things. And then, building yourself up back again and, getting your culture, your artistry, your community, and then getting math and science and development and all these kinds of things, right? It's the rise and fall of human consciousness is very different from apes. Apes don't have that kind of rhythm. They don't have that kind of design. You don't see apes having this rise and fall of consciousness where all of a sudden they get very, very advanced and then they fall and they collapse and they break down. Like, you don't see that, right? We're when we compare ourselves to this ape-like caveman that evolved into us kind of thing, it really is showcasing that we have a DNA patterning that's more primitive, right? That's why we compare it to an ape, and we all see that in the history textbook, right? There's a human and there's like some ape. A caveman, but basically is an ape looking like, right? So we know our DNA is much older. So our DNA, it can't possibly come from apes because, unless apes are much older than this planet, right? But our DNA as a human, and the more that we evolve our DNA through our spirituality, because spirituality is basically the preface for the great revolution and evolution of human, right? Spirituality. It's basically the driving force for human evolution. So whenever you see spirituality, it's not just religious, it's also like spirituality is like an age of reason or an age of enlightenment or a renaissance. All of that basically is the turning point that pushes humanity into a more evolved state, we can say. And the establishment of science or literature, astronomy, or advancements in astronomy, or discoveries in art or poetry or music, right? Or even discoveries of territory and of medicine, of herbs and these kinds of things. It's all about the spirituality of the people and of the person. So we as human beings, we have a DNA pattern, right? And that DNA pattern it's called epigenetics. and that epigenetics is carved out from the 7 to 14 generations that basically all set up our sort of DNA patterning, right? We have that, right? For example, the DNA patterning I have that supports my natural psychic ability is that my father has mediumship, very, very strong mediumship, meaning he was a medium, his grandmother was a medium, and so on, right? So that does support, let's say, that DNA strand of, let's say, mediumship, because you can pull out strands and you can put in strands of like DNA basically information. So people can put in prosperity threads into the DNA. They can take out prosperity threads, meaning your generations before you. They can put in like psychic ability. They can take out psychic ability, right? And that's why we talk about the lineage of like the shaman in the indigenous tribal populace, is that a lot of the shaman, right, the DNA itself has been patterned through many, many generations of shamans to basically be very refined in, let's say, mediumship and these psychic abilities and these gifts and these talents. Now, for myself, I had a mediumship gift in the DNA of me, and it was expressed even at a very young age, but it wasn't refined. Meaning my father didn't refine it, my grandmother didn't refine it. It was there because, I come from, very ancient sort of mediums, but over the many, years or many centuries, basically, that it was not refined. It kind of became a stalemate or kind of got dull, right? And me working on mediumship is basically I'm revitalizing and I'm bringing vitality back to that DNA pattern that was probably at least 500 years old, probably more like 1,000 years old within my my DNA patterning that came to be for me today. So quite interesting. So you have there's threads of poverty. A lot of people deal with poverty, especially if you're Black, Hispanic, living in the United States of America, even prior if you come from sort of slave trade or anything like that, right? The poverty, the poverty patterning of 7 generations, it basically creates a DNA pattern of lack, right? Or lack or theft or neglect. These are all lack, theft, neglect. And that patterning basically, especially it's been very, very heavy on the many generations. If through you, it's going to be experienced. You're going to have that code of poverty. And for many people, it feels like a curse, right? For many people, it feels like a curse. And that's the great sort of challenge, right? Is that, it feels like a curse because genetically you have like 3-5 generations of this sort of poverty, right? So it's a DNA pattern, meaning it's a DNA pattern that in order for it to be deleted, somebody has to delete it. And you only really delete the pattern is through basically facing the challenge, right? Because it's very challenging to delete a pattern that's 3 generations old. It feels like a curse, like, I'm just bound to be poverty or whatever. No, it just means that you have to enhance these other traits within your DNA pattern, like such as psychic ability or whatever talent, or use your authentic code, such as your knowledge from other planets, and basically you can burn off that pattern. You can burn it off, and people have done it. That's why they say it's such hard work. They're like, man, I came from poverty and took such hard work, because hard work means fire. You need fire to burn off these delete these patterns in the DNA code, right? So a lot of people come from poverty, and they end that curse or whatever through their hard work and their ambition and these kinds of things, their dedication, their education. It's fire. Hard work is like a sweat, like, I just burned off that DNA pattern. And everybody who's gone through that, where they're trying to end the curse of the poverty thing, it's like a fire, right? And a lot of times for particular African Americans in the United States of America is that the fire can also be seen as rage, and anger, which you see in the African American community, where they're angry and there's a rage because they've been in the lack and in the neglect and this poverty thing, right, where they've been neglected, or there's a big lack, right, going on, and they're basically in who they are. That makes them weak and very poor, kind of energy wise. And the anger and the rage of African Americans is just simply means that there's a lot of heat that's given to them, but they're not using it. They're not moving it into actually breaking down or deleting these patterns. It's like a fire, but the fire isn't being used. And that's what creates this anger and this sort of rage, is because you want to move. You want to create a big movement in your life and for your generations, but you're not doing it. Right? It's just like the fire is just agitated against the poverty thread. It's just rubbing against it, but it's not actually going into the thread and actually burning it up, basically. So you have that kind of thing. And again, it's not just a couple things, like everything, like the mindset and the physical features. And again, you can delete physical features. You actually can do that. Right? Even physical, illnesses and diseases, you can burn that off. Again, it's hard work. You have to burn, you have to sweat, right? That's why, it's like a movement. It's not just like a sitting around. It's even when you pray and you're like, I pray to clear out this disease, and you do that every day. That's hard work, and you begin to sweat from it. You begin to sweat because what's happening is you're burning through it. You're burning, you're deleting it, you're erasing it. And it begins to cool. When you get that cooling means you're putting in a new pattern. You got to burn out the old thing and then put in the new thing with the kind of the cool. And the cooling is basically like you're purifying and you're tapping into the vision, right? A greater vision, and you're putting that into place, right? So that's why we say go to the cold mountain if you want to enhance your vision. Right? Vision quest. People go to the cold mountain, right? Because they're wanting to open up their consciousness and connect with more authentic coding and begin to put that into their body, right? So we have an authentic code as well, and that basically is from our oversoul, from our Sachic record, and we can use that, and we integrate it from even young years. Depends on how psychically grounded we are. We can integrate, because it's integrated through your psychic accord, basically. And everybody has a different psychic accord, because not everybody has many lifetimes of carving out their vessel as a human being into a vessel that can actually sustain and hold a lot of authentic code. Is very high vibrational. You need a vessel that can match that, right? So if you have a vessel that you haven't worked on for lifetimes, it's very dull, right? It's very dull. It's not refined. It's not going to be able to match the high information of your authentic code, your Sachic record, and it won't be able to hold until you basically carve your vessel, model your vessel into a container that is able to hold a higher vibration of information. Because again, our mind cannot hold a lot of, we're not ETs. Like ETs they can have 7 streams of thought going on at once, and they can be in all of them at once. We as human beings, we can't do that. Our container called our vessel is not in match with that. If we had that experience, if an ET gave us that experience, that information, our mind would probably collapse. We would probably think I'm crazy, or I'm mental breakdown, right? Or we lose our mind, because this vessel, this container is not suitable for that amount of high information. Now, we can model it though. Like there are individuals who psychically can, see 3-4 realities simultaneously at once, kind of like ET, because they have built their psychic accord to be in such modeling through many lifetimes of working with the body, the mind, the spirit, and improving, refining the life force of the human to be able to have that kind of experience of higher energy that, ETs experience, right? Because ETs, many of them, they are of a more spirit evolved, right? Meaning they have a lot of thousands, millions, billions of years of evolving, right? In many ways, of basically carving their physical body to match this high amount of information. And that's why ETs can travel through space physically in their little spaceships. We couldn't do that. Even if we wanted to right now, we would probably all get sick. Many people would get sick. Even the astronauts who are trained would most likely experience sickness or even death, because our vessel, our physical body, is just not really equipped or really aligned with that. Right now. That doesn't mean it won't ever or hasn't ever. It just means right now. So the challenge, right, just like ETs, when you are evolving, it's challenging because you're deleting, again, fire. You're deleting a lot of these more, primitive patterns. For a lot of us, we struggle with sex, money, power, that kind of thing. And that's very primitive patterning it keeps us in this sort of lower intelligence, we could say, right? And we're challenging ourselves by challenge, or the challenge with challenge, right? To spiritually grow, right? And again, not all ETs are spiritual. I mean, they may be evolved with their technology, but spiritually they are not as balanced or grounded as human beings. Because us human beings, we call the heart of the universe, right? We're the heart of the universe. So it represents that we are the spiritual artistry of many, many planets, right? Many, many planets look to us for artistry because we human beings have this creative artistry because we're very in touch with our feelings. Now, a lot of us don't like to be in touch with our feelings because it's very deep and powerful, and it can destroy you if you're not, careful with it. But many of us who are artists or musicians or even, discoverers or pioneers or visionaries, even in science community or literature, we are very in tap with our feelings, and that's what makes us very creative because we're very deep with our feelings. And many ETs kind of lack that, except the ETs that are more like our genetic sisters and brothers. Talk about Pleiades, and they're more like our genetic sisters and brothers, where we kind of have a similar DNA patterning because we kind of come from each other, like we are intermixed or bred together or something like that. Very, very interesting. So the authentic code is your spiritual you. So if I go to Pleiades right now and I just, die right now, and my, my prana body goes to my soul body, subtle body, and I'm just going to go to Pleiades. And I go into a Pleiadian body. I incarnate in Pleiades. Right? I have Pleiadian skin, Pleiadian hair, and a Pleiadian, family or whatever. Basically, my spirituality, I am here in this planet, is going to be the same in that planet. Even though it's going to be expressed differently because the Pleiadian setup is different from the human setup, it's going to be the same. In the underlying vibration, it's going to be the same. So the spirituality that I embody in this particular lifetime, because I've integrated the authentic code through meditating upon the 10th gate, it will be the same in the Pleiades. It will be the same. It will be expressed different because, Pleiadians have a different language. They have a different body, right? They're taller or leaner. They have a different culture. They have different ideology, just a whole different setup. But the spirituality, the core vibration will be the same, right? And that's your authentic you. That's your spiritual you, right? And that's the thing, is from life to life, even on planet Earth, that core you, that spiritual you, regardless of what life you're in, it's you, right? So me in past lives, me in future lives, that it doesn't matter. That's me, right? It's not like all of a sudden I become different people with different personalities. But my core spiritual me is that's always going to be a constant, regardless of what incarnation I'm in. And this is what your astrological constitutional body is. It's your spiritual you. So again, energy can't be created nor destroyed. So you can evolve it, meaning, again, spirituality, it changes. It's not just the same. for, eternity. Your infinity in totality is a revolving life force. It's energy, and energy is always like a nebula. It's always just moving into different colors and shapes, right? But the energy is still the same. It's the same energy, it's just transforming into different kind of shapes and patterns. But there always is a core you that really, I mean, it's a constant. It's a constant, and then everything else revolves around that constant. And your astrological constitutional body is the constant, right? The constant is the center point within a nubula, and all the energy revolves around that constant point, which is the spiritual you. And when we begin to meditate or work on the arc line, or do Kundalini yoga, or just when we start to really tap into our liberty, our sovereignty, these kinds of freedom, basically, shamans use, rituals or ceremonies, or, we call soul retrieval, soul integration, soul embodiment, soul mantra, and embedding that within the mind. All of that is about you bringing in through the 10th gate your authentic code and putting it into the DNA. Putting it into the DNA. And again, when you start to put that into the DNA, your DNA is going to respond. It's going to be like, whoa, what is this? Because your DNA is epigenetics, the more flesh version of yourself, right? That's about, many generations and the ancestors, and right, it's very elemental. So it will respond and be like, whoa, it will be kind of shocked or stunned. In the way that your DNA, it wants to calibrate. It will calibrate according to the new information you're putting in. It will calibrate, and that's how DNA gets wiser. It gets improved. It's refined, right? And that's how we talk about DNA. When you look at it through many generations, it starts to have this visionary patterning, or it starts to have this radiance to it. It starts to have this vital DNA patterning, where it starts to look more advanced and sophisticated and intelligent, basically. It starts to evolve beyond the primitive ape-like human, and it starts to mirror more like a star being type of, line with a star being type of DNA pattern. Like it starts to become almost like we call it a humanoid, right? Which is like humans / Palladian, that kind of comparison, where it basically means your DNA pattern is becoming quite visionary, quite cosmic, right? Meaning it's getting strong. It's getting very, very strong. It's getting very, very intelligent, right? Because a lot of us are very weak in our DNA patterning, meaning that's why we're all just caught in this this dullness of sex, money, power, and we're all just kind of caught in this primitive, sort of unruly, kind of greedy, confused kind of, experience with our sex, power, money, because we're really operating at a lower human energy, right? We're not meant to operate in that sort of human energy, but we do, because a lot of us don't know how to really, clear out these lower human experiences. We don't know how to really clean it out and to reprogram, right? Because reprogramming is a sort of meditation. It's a self-psychology. It's a self-hypnosis. And those who do it, such as a lot of these sort of meditating communities, or these tribes that are very tapped into ceremony or ritual, a lot of them do start to have a more of a spiritual sort of artistry to their life, and in the way that they manifest and redefine themselves. They tend to be very foreign, right? They look very foreign, they act very foreign, they're very foreign, because they're connecting with an artistry that's very, very refined, that is beyond the common human low experience that has people in rage and anger and poverty, but just kind of stuck in it and don't even know how to actually move the energy. So really, visionaries, meditators, or sort of tribes that have this sort of shamanistic sort of impact, very much know how to move the energy. They know how to move the energy. And we know how to move the energy regardless of what family we're born into. It's just a matter of fact of continuing to develop it. Because if you're born into a family, again, that has a lot of poverty or even enslavement, naturally your psyche is going to be aligned to be thinking you're enslaved. So your whole life is going to sort of just naturally, subconsciously try to align with what it means to be enslaved. So you'll start to have jobs where you feel enslaved, relationship, or just your identity, your personality, you'll start to feel enslaved. And that's not an attack against you. That's just the epigenetics that are, you again, energy can't be created nor destroyed. It just keeps carrying it on until somebody, right, uses their visionary, right, kind of like going into the mountain, the snow, and clears it out and redefines the whole thing. And the redefining is very, very painful. It's very, very painful, and that's why a lot of people don't do it, or they do it and they don't keep up with it. It's very, very painful to redefine these genetic patterns that are, of many generations. Very, very painful. Because you have to completely be devoted and completely entrust in your authentic code. And that can be very painful because you're going to get, a backlash, or not a backlash, you're going to get sort of a resistance. Because your genetic, your DNA pattern is set up a certain way, and it will resist the change. Like, everybody resists change. That's just human. We all resist change. Change is not... we don't like change. That's why every time there's change, there's some sort of revolution or, with that violence. And, that's why the change happening in the Middle East, it's like monumental, like pain for everybody because we just don't like change, and there's always resistance with that. And that basically mirrors the subconscious, right? So in the Middle East, there's so much change going on because it's balancing out, right? The patriarch, the inner patriarch of the whole culture is being completely remodeled, and the matriarch is needing to be reinstated. And there's great sort of change, and that it's a lot of resistance, a lot of struggle with that. Very, very painful for a lot of people. And in many areas around this world, it's very, very painful because these changes that are happening are demanding of us to function in a certain way that we have probably never functioned in for maybe at least 500 years or so. So now we're demanded to function in a new way, but it's very uncomfortable because it's very, very foreign, and it's a totally new setup that we're being demanded to basically set up. Right, the universe is demanding us to set up a new lifestyle, a new ideology, a new way of living, and it's so uncomfortable and there's so much resistance because we've been in this, the 14 generations and doing that thing, and that's all we know. Right, but the ones who are the visionary, the ones who again have the authentic code, are usually the ones who are the futurists, who actually know what it is that's being demanded, right, of that particular geographic region and in the whole populace there, right? Because they have the authentic code, or they have the sort of vision that's able to see beyond the struggle and see into the bigger picture, basically, right? That's what we call wisdom holders. Right, we call it's a ritual, it's a ceremony, right? In a way that you retrieve your soul, you delete these programs, you repattern and reprogram the mind, and through self-psychology and through continued ritual and meditation, right? Through 10,000 hours of continuing in this path, and create a momentum for yourself and for your populace, and then all of a sudden you're starting to see change in a more stable kind of way, rather than change is abrupt and everybody's running for the hills and there's just all this sort of destruction because people are not tapping into their visionary sight. They're just remaining stuck in the same old thing, waiting for time to help them, and then time comes and they're not prepared, and then all of a sudden it's like total pain for them, right? Because they're just not tapping into a visionary sight. And again, some geographic regions on this planet can be very dense, so it's very hard to tap into this visionary sight, because when you have a very dense population and when you have a very dense sort of even genetic or epigenetic sort of waste, right? We all have subconscious waste, and there's a lot of that, a lot of trauma, basically, a lot of trauma. It's very, very hard to really come into that authentic embodiment, right? Because the resistance is just going to be so heavy, so heavy. right? So heavy for these type of, populace that is very populated. It's very dense, and in these old ways of functioning, where it's like you gotta it's really really hard to navigate through all of that. So with your authentic code, again, in your astrological constitutional body, that's you, your spiritual you. So when you die, you go to Pleiades, it's going to be the same. It's just going to be expressed differently. It's going to be in a different language. It's going to have a different, even a different sort of color, but it's basically going to be the same, right? So these are what makes up the constitutional body, and this is for you to discover. Right, this is not me telling you. This is something I discovered through many many years, almost a decade of just self psychology, basically, and just watching myself and just seeing myself in the social world, myself in the in the private world, and this is how I discovered. So you're human, soul, mind, aura, transformation, alchemy, manifestation, talent. So that is your astrological constitutional body, and that's what makes up you in the physical and the spiritual, regardless of what planet you're on, right? So again, if you're a Pleiadian, you'd say Pleiadian, soul, mind, aura, transformation, alchemy, manifestation, talent, right? If I was a Pleiadian, and it'd be the same thing, it'd just be expressed differently. And then I use the zodiacs. Right, and the zodiacs are very much universal, by the way, right? Pleiadians have zodiacs as well. They're just, there's a different language, so it's not going to be Aries kind of thing, because they're not, it's a different language. It's going to have different, it's going to be different. It's going to be the same pattern though, because when you look at the word Aries, it's basically a code, just like Morse code, and Morse code is universal. Right, Pleiadians can use Morse code, whatever, Orions can use Morse code, right? And basically the word Aries, it has a vibrational resonance. And that vibrational resonance, when you're very psychic and sensitive, if I were to say Aries to a Pleiadian, and they don't even know the language, they would just pick up on the vibrational resonance, and they would basically translate it, and they would take the code of it, and they would know exactly what I'm saying, even though they don't have any idea of Aries according to the English language, or Aries according to human astrological, makeup. So with human, right, the human I am is Aries, the soul I am is Pisces, the mind I am is Gemini, the aura I am is Capricorn, transformation I am is Pisces, alchemy I am is Scorpio, manifestation I am is Aries, and talent I am is Taurus. So you can just meditate and just write out human, write out soul, write out mind, write out aura, write out transformation, write out alchemy, write out manifestation, write out talent. And you will see, the energy. You can even see it as color, as I see it as color, right? For example, my aura, I have a very Capricorn aura, meaning Capricorn is about Saturn, it's about big, right? I'm very structured within my aura, right? Or Capricorn also represents, the highest status. We call it the boss. We call it the executive mind. So my aura has a sort of executive mind, meaning my aura has a lot of high, information, that's wisdom that's always there, right? So talk about having a very noble aura, right? And again, your aura may be different, it's for you, right? Think of your aura as like the sphere, right? And I have the Capricorn because I resonate with being able to hold wisdom, right? To hold that sort of the teachings on nobility and the lineage of nobility, right? So human, being a physical, being in the physical, being a physical person, I'm an Aries, right? And the human that I am, I'm a warrior. I'm a warrior human, right? I'm a very creative. I'm the forefront. I don't fear, right? Very fearless. I have a lot of passion, a lot of drive. That's me as a human in the physical. I'm more functioning from an Aries in my human sort of movement through life. And then the soul, Pisces, so my soul represents like your inner voice, the inner you. Like soul also represents spirituality. And then the Pisces, so I'm very artistic and very creative and kind of wizardy when it comes, very imaginative when it comes to my inner spirituality, my inner you, right? The inner you, the most precious place that is you, the most endearing place that is you. And then my mind, right? And in the mind that, receives information is Gemini. So that's about, being able to have a sort of a mind that has a lot of communication going on, right? There's a lot of energy in the mind, like moving around constantly. And then transformation, so in how I transform, right, from this phase to the next phase, or how I just transform my energy or pain into or sorrow, and transform relationships or whatever it is I'm transforming. I do it through Pisces. So I transform through like inner philosophy and study, and again using my imagination, visualization. That's what helps me to transform, is I use a lot of deep visualization skills. And then alchemy is like death and rebirth, right? Alchemy, it's basically it's this deathless energy that you are, right? Alchemy is when you're, again, like I said, you're clearing away these epigenetic curses that you call, or the poverty in your genetic patterning or your DNA pattern, right? That alchemy is like a ceremony, it's a ritual, it's a even a soul retrieval, it's a meditation, it's a very deep almost self-hypnosis, almost subconscious clearing. It's very, very deep. Alchemy is a subconscious clearing, right? So shamans in the indigenous tribes basically are alchemists, meaning they're helping their people get a very deep subconscious clearing of past traumas and upsets and agitations, all that kind of itchy and scratchy things that go on in the subconscious. And they help them to realize their soul, realize their who they truly are, realize the universe, and realize the place where they come from and where they want to go when they die, and what they came here to learn, and are they learning that, and all these kinds of things. Is alchemy, right? Alchemy is you getting in touch. Okay, what did I come here to learn? Right? Am I learning that? And how do I feel about learning that? Right? How do I feel about what I've done on this earth? Right? Did I achieve what I set out to achieve? Right? The great challenge that we all are given when we come into this incarnation. Did I go into it fearlessly, or did I kind of experience fear in the process, and how do I feel about feeling, having a lot of fear in my life, right? So alchemy for me is Scorpio, which is kind of, again, it's like a deep sort of shamanistic kind of combination, right? But your alchemy could be Cancer, where your deathless self is very much like being very nurturing and healing, and balancing your emotions, right? But mine is Scorpio, which is planet Pluto, which is about, again, being very, very like in the darkness of myself. I can clear out a lot of the inner, all things that are there lurking around, right? So it's like not a fear of darkness, not a fear of death, basically. And then with manifestation is like get things done. That's what I see, get things done. So manifestation is more about like a forward movement. It's more about, okay, you have the vision, you want to come to earth to do this thing, and manifestation is like get it done, make it happen, do the thing. And for me, it's Aries. So, and how I get things done in this, from not just this physical life, but in multiple physical life, as human or Pleiadian, is through the Aries energy, which again is get things done, is more of like a warrior, being assertive, being, bold and fearless kind of thing. And then talent is the last one. And talent is, again, every person, either you're Pleiadian or human, you come to Pleiades or Earth because you want to express yourself. You want to be talented. And if you don't know how to express yourself, you came to Earth because you want to receive the education on how to express yourself. right? You want to be schooled on how to express yourself and how to be talented in whatever trade or skill that is. And for me, my talent is Taurus. So Taurus is again ruled by Venus, and Taurus is very much about being dependent on myself, being assured, right? Being in tune with beauty, right? Using beauty as a way to manage myself and help others, right? So it's being very much a manager, right? Talent to me is I know how to manage myself very well, and you count on myself and organize myself to better have the talent to complete, right? Complete the job, basically. And that's not just this lifetime, it's multiple lifetimes. And if I was on Pleiades, I would probably be like a great manager, right? Or I would be the person who can rely on themselves and be dependable, and the one who shows up, right, to the talent or the study or the education, and would complete the tasks, right? Complete the goals or whatever, right? Or if I was on Orion or whatever. So again, this is all me just in self-psychology. This is not, this took me years to really connect these, but you can connect, just feel okay, human, meditate upon that. Okay. What is the human for me? Okay. Human is Aries for me. Meditate on soul. Like, what is the inner spirituality that is you? The spiritual you. Oh, Pisces. It'll just come natural, just like ding, ding, ding. Mind. What is the natural, the mind for you in an authentic way? Oh, Gemini. You can also look at your astrological natal chart too. Aura, okay? Your aura, connect with your aura. Feel the caliber of your aura. What is the caliber of your aura most in sync with? Oh, Capricorn. Transformation, like you just doing the thing, transforming. Like, how do you transform, and what is your natural way of transforming that you've had since you were little? That just feels very, very universal to you. Oh, Pisces. Okay, alchemy. When you go through death and rebirth, like when you tap into your deathless being, when you're just this traveling soul, like in remote view or astral projection. How do you do that? Oh, I do that through the Scorpio. Right? Manifestation, when you get things done, like, what's natural, like in the zodiac that you get things done? Okay, Aries. And the talent, like, looking at your talent, like, okay, I got this talent, like, how do I really show up in the way of talent? Oh, I show up mainly as a Taurus when it comes to talent. So this is all something that you can really discover within yourself, and it's something to meditate upon. But I wanted to share this with you all, your astrological constitutional body, to kind of expand your awareness on, your authentic code, right? These are 8, right? These are 8 sort of building blocks to you and your authentic code that travels with you from life to life to other planets and other dimensions. So again, the 8 building blocks to your authentic code and in this physical life that can help you to connect with all the lifetimes and even on other planets is my human, my soul, my mind, my aura, transformation, alchemy, manifestation, talent, and then the zodiac that goes into each one you can discover through your astrological chart and just the awareness of that through meditation, just through being self-aware, or just through you finding a soul mantra, right? Like a soul mantra is basically a sound current and tapping into that sound current, and that will literally just, boom, give you the psychic awareness on, okay, if I was on Pleiades, the authenticity of me is Aries human, Pisces soul, Gemini mind, Capricorn aura, Pisces transformation, Scorpio alchemy, Aries manifestation, and Taurus talent. And again, the zodiacs, regardless of what planet you're on, it will have the same vibration. So if you were to go to Pleiades and said, I'm an Aries human, they would just, they know exactly what that energy means. If you said, Pisces soul, they're like, I know exactly what that energy is. I know exactly what that is. Because it's a vibration. And everything you are in your authentic code is your vibration. And this is kind of a 8 building block pathway to help you discover your sound current, and what to kind of see it written and kind of see it intellectualized, but more so see it in a way that you can really start to feel into more of your wholeness and more of like your authentic code, so you can start to experience more of that and use that to help you clear away the human condition, all the epigenetic curses or traumas or whatever it is that's holding you back from experiencing your authentic embodiment, which is kind of like the end all goal. But a lot of us, mainly really they say only 20% actually get into that, because we get so caught in the judgment, so restrained from our authentic code, because of all of the programmings and the beliefs and all of these sort of stuck energies that we get stuck with. And then we start to not feel and start to not think, and start to not, we have no sovereignty, we have no clarity, and then we're just wandering around, and then we're relying on other people to help us figure it out, and then we're wrapped up in here and interlocked with here, and it's just like all this whirlwind of just being interlocked and earthbound, right? But we're meant to be earthbound, we're meant to be grounded, but we're also meant to be ascended. We're meant to descend and ascend. And basically, ascend is like, again, you're connecting with the cosmos to retrieve your authentic code, just like in a ceremony, a ritual, or some sort of shamanistic gathering, right? For, like an indigenous tribe. You're ascending into the cosmos to retrieve your authentic code, right? But then you're also descending into the earth, right? You're descending into the earth to heal the ancestors. So the shaman isn't like ascending into the cosmos in some ayahuasca travel, right? Or ascending into other dimensions of self, right? So you can understand the universe and discover the universe and discover the infinity of you from life to life to life, so you can heal some lives of pain and unresolved stuff. But the shaman brings you deep into the earth, brings you deep into the soil, deep into the earth, so you can experience the original earth, right? And that's what we tell about the original earth through stories, right? Shamans are the original storytellers. Now Hollywood, a shaman is like some sort of, looking like a witch or something, right? But the shamans were the original storytellers, and stories were told about the earth, and they were basically ways to tell the esoterics of the earth. They weren't a way of distraction or escape or, going into some, story that, just kind of, like a fantasy. It was more so getting you into a deep reality of what you are capable of doing on this planet Earth. It was more of a shock. It was more of like, like, oh my God, I can actually create this amount of power in my life as a human being and have this much creativity and victory and spirituality. Whoa, right? It was the stories of the shaman was like star beings and, history basically that was, is stored within the soil, the crystals of the earth. And that's basically shamans would help you descend into the earth so that you could heal the ancestors, because the ancestors are dead, right? They're in the soil, right? They're they live, they're dead. You bury them in the soil, right? Kind of thing. So when you go descend into the earth, it's about healing the ancestors, freeing the ancestors, because some of the ancestors are earthbound. They're like ghosts. Like they didn't, they have a lot of, unforgiveness and, hate themselves, and they feel like they're punishing themselves by just remaining stuck on earth, right? Because they feel like they did things that were bad, and, they're trying of, they're suffering in that kind of way, because they're stuck in a program, basically, and that keeps replaying through them, and that's why they're a ghost. They're stuck in a program. They don't know how to get out, right? It's like being stuck in a room with no windows or doors. It's like, how do I get out? So shamans also, the great journey is about ascending into the cosmos to connect with the stars and, find your star, your inner star, right? Your star being, but also descend and connect with the ancestors to heal the ancestors. Because when your ancestors are liberated through the grace of your sovereignty, through your attention and your awareness and your prayer, when you heal your ancestors and when your ancestors ascend out of the dirt into the cosmos to the stars where they can go, you actually are liberating your destiny, and you're bringing great blessing to your destiny. So this is mainly, I'll just repeat it one last time with the eight building blocks to your astrological genetic body, and let you kind of go into it and discover your own, right? So you have human, soul, mind, aura, which is, again, caliber. Aura is caliber, how much energy you can hold. Transformation, how you move energy. Alchemy is your death, rebirth, deathless, right? And manifestation, how do you get things done? And talent, what you have to offer the earth. So this is the 8 building blocks, and may this help you realize your authentic code, and how you can, use these building blocks, these 8 building blocks, to actually kind of go in there and kind of retrieve more of yourself, so that you can really retrieve more of who you naturally are in the spirituality of you and other dimensions and planets, so that you can start to use it as a tool to help you heal the ancestors and heal this planet, and help you to really clear away the human condition, all the blockages and the pain and the suffering and the poverty and all these things, the anger, the rage that really keep us stuck. So you can really move beyond these fears, so you can start to become more liberated, so you can start to become more masterful, and you can start to tap into a deeper potential for you in this human existence, right? Start to feel more magical, and like you can manifest things for yourself, quite serendipity, and really start to get into your artistry of what it is that you came here to do, and get more of a vision, a dedication, a strong energy with it.